friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Video 786. Titan that neighborhood. My brothers and sisters. Back once again, my friends, on another Wednesday. So y'all know who we're about to go back to. Mike from that chapter. Back to that chapter, Bean Team. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again. So help with the bean. And the title of the video is The Disturbing Case of Sade Robinson. Now, I have never heard of this story ever before, y'all. I don't know where we're about to go, but I'm ready to freaking go. But before we go, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. It is always a delight when we get to go back to Mike. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike. And in this old video, it was on the cold shores of Lake Michigan that a man and his buddy were going for an evening walk. It was wet, windy, and cold as one of these men, Evan, strolled through the rocks, the sand, and the driftwood, minding his own business. About 150 yards though from the parking lot, Evan noticed something up ahead. At first he thought it was just the driftwood, lying on this embankment and bluffs that led down to the beach. Evan could quickly tell though that this was no driftwood. It was a human leg.
Just for evidence purposes.
Okay, so they just swept away?
Yeah.
Okay.
This would become part of an extremely disturbing and twisted case that began with the disappearance of a woman who went on a date with an incomparable man. Incomparable to anything good. Let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home to over 500,000 people, but more importantly, home to Miller Genuine Draft and Jeffrey Dahmer, is where this story takes us. Because that is where 19-year-old Sade Robinson lived.
Hey guys, welcome to the vlog.
Come on.
I just gotta say something real quick, Bean Team. Can you imagine just being out, you know what I'm saying, outside, wherever, and you just randomly see a human leg just laying on the ground? You know what I'm saying? Do you know how throwed off that would make your day from that point forward? That was just a crazy start to this story. Let's keep going.
Sade Robinson was born on May 10th, 2004, daughter of Carlos and Sheena, born in a Vicksburg, Mississippi hospital. When she was a baby of 2 years old, Sade and her family, they upped sticks and they moved north to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which would go on to become the permanent home for young Sade. She went to a Milwaukee public school, she was part of the Girl Scouts, she played soccer, and Sade was an extremely talented dancer. Like anything to do with the arts, folks, let me tell you, she was in there. Rapping, performing, even ballroom dancing. She was super outgoing and adventurous, gregarious, you might even say, and you know what I will say, and she was thinking at one point, the Yale Air Force might have a bit of that. Honestly, Sade could have whatever she wanted. She was smart, beautiful, and excelled in her studies and making friends. She graduated high school in 2022 and started studying relevant criminal justice. In fact, she was just getting ready to graduate on, of all days, her 20th birthday, May 10th, 2024. She was also working 2 jobs. One was at a pizza shop named Pizza Shuttle, where she would regularly hand out pizza slices to the homeless folks living all around there, and then she would also work at the Wisconsin Country Club, all the while renting an apartment. Impressive. Most impressive. But Sade would meet somebody who was like sort of the exact opposite in every way.
And it was like so far so good, being team. You know what I'm saying? As far as how her life was going, like she one of those people where you literally could be like, and it ain't exaggeration. Like she had her whole life ahead of her and could be pretty much anything she wanted to be. You know what I'm saying, man? Like she was just set up for freaking greatness. You know what I'm saying? As far as just her school and academics and everything, she had a lot of different options in life. But then here we go. Somebody that came in her life that's just gonna take her down the wrong freaking road, who ain't got no good going on in theirs, and it's gonna mess her good up. Let's give it a go.
They first went on a date on March 29th, 2024. They went out together to Victor's Bar in Milwaukee. They would then go out for their next date, and this was when Sade was last seen, on April 1st, 2024. April Fool's Day, though the only joke was the person she was meeting. His name was Maxwell Anderson. That day, Sade was working in Pizza Shuttle, regular ass shift for her. And after her shift, she was going to go meet with this Maxwell Anderson for their date. She was allegedly, by all accounts, pretty excited about their date. She even told the maintenance man at her apartment building, sort of expressive about it. Now, how Sade and Maxwell actually met is sort of unclear. I believe Maxwell was a bartender, and one time Sade had gone into the bar where he worked with some friends, and they had been introduced, either just shooting the shit at the bar or via a friend. From reports, they went on their first date, as I said, March 29th. They went out to a bar that Maxwell used to work at. Then they arranged for date number 2, 3 days later, to go out for dinner on April 1st. Regardless, anyway, they had been texting each other and agreed to meet up for some food. Sade said she was feeling seafood, so they arranged to go to Twisted Fisherman, the dark and twisted mind of a fisherman. That sort of food. Fairness to the menu, it's not that twisted. Maxwell used to work here too, if you can believe that. I'm saying used to work. Like a lot. What's that about? Perhaps going to both of these places he used to work at because she was underage. They met at about 5:20 p.m, had food, a few drinks at the bar, only staying there for about an hour, leaving at roughly 6:30 p.m. They then went to another bar called Duke's. By the way, honestly, it seems like it was a pretty bad date for Sade. When Maxwell wasn't outside huffing darts, it seems like he was having a great time with the couple beside. You can see Sade sitting there looking pretty bored. Stayed there for a couple more hours, had a few tasty treats, dare I say, a Miller Genuine Draft or 5, and then they left at about 9 p.m. in Sade's car.
You know what I'm thinking about right now, Bean Team? I'm wondering, was this premeditated? Like, this dude knew, even just watching, when we watching that surveillance footage while they was at those bars, did he already have in his mind at the end of the night, I'm gonna kill this lady, I'm gonna kill this girl, you know what I'm saying? Or did it just happen? Just the things I'm wondering right now.
After that, though, Sade Robinson was never seen again. And before we continue, let me ask you this, hotshot.
Might go on to this commercial, man. But I just wonder, Bean Team, how premeditated was this? Because you look at the freaking surveillance, especially when they was in that second bar, it's almost like he didn't even like really care about the date himself. Like he was just doing it just to freaking do it. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too far into it. I'm gonna take it back right here. Let's go.
4 features with premium. Thank you so much to Rocket Money for sponsoring this whole video. Now let's get back to it. Sade didn't show up for her shift at Pizza Shuttle the following day. This is now April number 2, April 2nd. And it's one of those cases where She doesn't show up, you immediately know something's wrong because she always showed up, and if she didn't show up, she would ring, saying, "How is lads? I'm gonna be a little bit late in today." She didn't do any of that. And then when her manager and her colleagues, they tried to call her saying, "Where you at?" No answer. So immediately you're thinking, okay, if she's not answering and no contact from her, that's out of character. Therefore, something is wrong. Her manager tried calling her on the phone all day long. Tried calling then her friends, tried calling her family. None of them had heard from Sade at all April 2nd. It was her family who then reported her missing that evening at about 9 p.m. Tuesday, April 2nd. The police's first port of call, Sade's apartment. Knock, knock. Anybody home? Nobody home at all. In fact, when they let themselves in, having a go around the place, there was zero signs of a disturbance, but it also seemed like she hadn't been here at all that day. Now, what the police didn't know at this stage, as they were opening a missing persons report, was that a substantial amount of movement had already begun in this case. Namely, with the discovery of two things. One, hours earlier, that very same day, April 2nd, a car had been found burnt to shite. This was at 7:30 a.m., 3 miles west of Sade's apartment, behind an abandoned building. A witness had seen a man exit the vehicle and toss a lighter into it before walking away. The witness said the man was wearing a grey hoodie and had a tan backpack. The vehicle was a 2020 Honda Civic, and it would later be identified as Sade Robinson's. Some of her clothing and her cell phone were also found in the trunk of that burning Honda.
Super weird because that engine still looks like it's in pristine condition. So. Huh? It didn't even look like, I mean that in the sense of the fire didn't even touch the engine or any part of the front of the vehicle. Oh, it was only interior.
Then also, again that very same day as Sade's manager is desperately trying to find her and locate, make sure she's okay, a man named Evan and his friend had been going for a walk along the banks of Lake Michigan. This was in Warnament Park, about 30 minutes due south of Milwaukee proper, along the banks of the Great Lake.
Stand by. I have the on-call sheet. I'm trying to figure out what we can do.
Take that. Alright.
How's it going?
What's up, man?
So, this is Evan Millies. We've dealt with him before. Sometimes, mostly a good guy. He's gotten into this trouble a couple times, but good dude.
Okay.
So they walked down the S-curve from Sheridan, started walking south just for fun, rough day on the beach. As they were walking, see that leg right there?
Yeah.
Said that it was up about approximately where the end of that stick, that branch is.
By the bushes right there.
Yeah, bushes. Said that they saw it up
So it's
there.
up on the hill, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So said that him and his buddy, who's in my squad right now, walked out, called us, and then when we came back, it was about maybe 7 feet east.
By the rock.
I moved it just for evidence purposes.
Okay, so they get swept away?
Yeah.
Okay. How long were you out here?
About probably an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
There, a human leg was discovered, the leg belonging to a black female. It was a pretty horrifying discovery. As you can tell, Evan seems like he's even in shock.
Did you come this way?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's going
The
to
first
be
time you
Marco.
seen anything here?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's the first time you seen anything like this?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Alright.
Hell yeah, it's my first time seeing something like this. What the hell kind of question is that, officer? I was just going out for a walk on the freaking beach, and look, lo and behold, what the freak I see. That's what I said, Bean Team. Can you imagine that, man? That would be so freaking freaky and would just F with you.
Hang tight, don't go anywhere, okay?
Yeah.
Hang on, Evan. We'll talk to you some more, okay?
So the first thing was checking the VIN number on that burnt out Honda Civic, and that would link it to its owner, Sade Robinson. And then, so they're going to start looking for the owner of the car. They know who that is. And then they're also reading, oh, she was just reported missing like that same day. This isn't looking good. And then they also read, we found a report of a human leg found about 30 minutes away, and the leg belongs to a black female. Things were not looking good from Jump Street.
At the bottom of Warnemont Park's steep cliff, in or near Lake Michigan's roaring waters, investigators say a park goer spotted a bizarre sight Tuesday evening, a severed leg.
We have officers out with the callers by Warnemont Park Golf Course. They're walking down by the pump house.
Calling 911, Cudahy police say they were the first to respond just before 5:30 p.m. Within 10 minutes, dispatchers heard saying this over their radio.
Cudahy to Sheriff on Lawful. This is the sheriff. Go ahead. It's confirmed and located.
Our cameras captured investigators down at the bottom of the cliff searching the area. Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office immediately determining the leg belonged to a human.
As I said, Sade had told a lot of people what she was doing and who she was meeting just the evening before on April 1st, because she was so excited about it. She was so excited to go and meet with this Maxwell Anderson fellow. Getting records then off her semi-burnt out cell phone that would also reveal a whole heap of text messages between herself and Maxwell, and also via her Life 360 app, where she had been till the moments her phone had died. It showed her exact movement the night before. Sade and Maxwell had met up at the Twisted Fisherman, then they'd gone to a bar, then they had driven in Sade's car to Maxwell's home in southeast Milwaukee. They arrived to his house at about 9:30 p.m, but then at around 1 a.m, 3.5 hours later, Sade's phone had left his house. It was now traveling through downtown. Then at around 3 a.m, her phone was near Warnemont Park, and on CCTV a figure was seen in that area walking along the embankment. The same embankment and bluffs that a leg would later be found at.
I'm thinking that he killed her inside his home. You know what I'm saying? And that was just him. Well, he was leaving with her, but she was deceased when he left the home at 1 something in the morning. And now it was just his master plan of getting rid of the body and dumping the car off somewhere and freaking setting it on fire. Man, I'm so happy that it's so much evidence, like literal video, CCTV surveillance footage of this dude step by step in this freaking murder that he did. Rest in peace to Sade.
It's in fact a pump house at the park, and later it was discovered that the gate to that pump house had been rammed through with, it was later discovered via bits of car left behind, a Honda Civic. After that, Sade's phone died, and the next thing is that roughly at 7:30 a.m, her car was found on fire. CCTV would show a man leaving the area of the burnt out car, getting on a bus, and then heading towards South Milwaukee, towards the home of one Maxwell Anderson. The police were putting all this shite together, and they needed to speak with him urgently. But who the shit was Maxwell Anderson? Maxwell Anderson was 33 years old at the time, and he'd grown up in suburban Waukesha County. He graduated high school in 2009, and he was sort of known in the Milwaukee area. He had worked at a lot of bars, he'd worked at a lot of clubs, he had been bartender, security, and he was known as like fairly well liked, and he had a good work ethic. He had also briefly served in the US Navy, had been there for about like 8 months before he left for unknown reasons. Now, he had a few incidents with the law, though. He had a couple run-ins with the old boy. In 2014, he was visiting relatives in Colorado when he was acting weird aka on drugs, and he had started screaming at a relative. He then stole the relative's car, drove, crashed it, got into a fight with another relative, because I guess he had been, chased down. That was a bad move on Maxwell Anderson's part, because it ended up Maxwell ended up in maximum bad position because he got the shite bait out of him by this other relative, ending up in hospital. A year later, in 2015, he was arrested again for domestic abuse for glassing an elderly relative. This was because they had recommended that Maxwell seek mental health treatment, to which, I imagine he responded, "But I'm Maxwell." Max shit. Then in 2019, he ended up in some kind of argument with a woman just on the sidewalk. In Milwaukee, a passerby tried to intervene, and then they ended up in fisticuffs, and Maxwell was arrested for that one. Then 2022, he was arrested for drunk driving. Maxwell has been described as a spoiled brat, weird and awkward, who feared the collapse of society and left booby traps around his own home. However, he grew up in very affluent circumstances for sure. His father owned a local insurance company, and he thought he could have whatever he wanted and do whatever he wanted.
Man, one thing I gotta say about Maxwell is he is very confrontational, being team. Like, just growing up throughout his life, he just always getting in fights, a lot of time with his own relatives. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I don't know, man. It's starting to seem like this one of those ones where you could see it coming. You know what I'm saying? That he was gonna end up doing something bad to somebody one day.
And that included having a sex dungeon. Because somehow in this story, of course, he had a sex dungeon. And you know the way people say, have a bit of cop on. You shouldn't be you shouldn't kink shame people. Don't kink shame people. I disagree. I feel like some people we should kink shame, because Maxwell Anderson is a maximum piece of shit. And he had, the full-on sex dungeon, which I'm talking the whips, the restraints, the slings, the saws, the blades, the tarps. You can see where this is going, I imagine. Tools. He was a sick puppy. And speaking of puppies, by the way, you'll like this. On April 3rd, 2024, that's what he updated his profile picture to. All the while, the police were trying to track him down. The very next day, he again posted on Facebook, asking if anyone wanted to join him in some volunteering. I don't know if he saw any of the replies, because that very same day, at around 1:20 p.m., Maxwell Anderson was arrested at a traffic stop.
Head to southbound Hampton on, 45 southbound Hampton on for Apollo, return for highway versus Apollo.
Any weapons items, sir?
No. What's going on?
Good, somebody just radio it.
This was only a few blocks from his home. In the rear of the car was a hoodie matching the one seen by the suspect in the CCTV after Sade's car was burnt up. That very same day, police executed a search warrant of his home, and things started to become pretty clear. In the bedroom and on the walls leading to the sex dungeon basement was blood. Tiny little spatters of blood. From the scene in the basement, it sort of became clear, tragically and horrifyingly, what had happened. They also found a couple of cans of gasoline, which he had likely again used to burn up Sade's car. In the meantime, the police continued searching around where Sade's car had been found, burnt out, and on April 6th, they found more body parts in that area. Disturbingly near some of the human flesh found in the park, they also found this extremely creepy doll with nails through its eyes. Now, they couldn't tell though if that had been left by Maxwell or not. Her foot would be found, along with what's been called other parts of discarded human flesh, and more of her more body parts would be found washed up along the banks of Lake Michigan. Her arm would wash up about 2 weeks later, and yeah, it's pretty horrifying.
Like, seriously, man, and it's one thing to murder somebody, but then, and that's bad enough, but it's another thing to sit up there after you done murdered them, to sit up there and just have the balls to actually cut up their body into pieces? Like, man, you got to be a sick mother, you know what, being seen to have a mind like that can do that.
Family and volunteers searching for the remains of 19-year-old Sade Robinson along Lake Michigan.
They just want justice. They want justice. This is a horrible thing that happened, and they want justice.
It's the same place where someone found Robinson's severed leg April 2nd, one day after investigators say she went on a first date with 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson. Anderson now charged with killing and mutilating Robinson's body.
Bit of a bombshell, though. When the DNA tests were done, those little spatters of blood they found on the walls leading out into the basement, not Sade's blood. Latex gloves were found on that same beach where the leg was found. Bloody, like two gloves, latex gloves were found completely bloody along that same beach. They were tested. It was not Sade's blood, it was not Maxwell Anderson's blood. In fact, there was a lot of blood found in the vicinity of Maxwell that was not Sade's. So, yeah. It's not like he didn't do it, it's like, what else did he do?
Yeah.
Maxwell Anderson was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and arson of a property other than a building. He refused to speak with the authorities. Now, in the lead-up to the trial, it was thought that his defense would go with the old... he killed her accidentally. You know, they were getting into maybe some kinky stuff, in his little sex dungeon basement, and he accidentally killed her. He panicked, he flipped out, he didn't know what to do, and so, well, he thought the best thing to do, scratching the old noggin, was chop her up and dismember and place her body parts around the city of Milwaukee and then burn her car out. I mean, he was panicking. He didn't know what else to do. And sure, isn't that what most people would do, in fairness now, if it was yourself? They thought that would fly. They were severely wrong. After all, though, the videos that show Sade's car driving around after it's believed she was killed, well, it's impossible to tell who the driver even is. At the same time, though, evidence seemed to show he knew exactly what he was doing. Photos were found on his phone. Photos that had been deleted, but, police can always recover them. Photos showed him, groping her unconscious in his house, him groping her, him removing her clothing, him dismembering her. After they'd gone to that second bar, they had gone back to Maxwell's place. Perhaps he had drugged her, rendered her unconscious somehow before he killed her and then, got at the hacksaw. And it would also seem like he had been preparing for something like this because a friend of Maxwell's would also come forward and speak to the police. And he would say he had been in Maxwell Anderson's house about a month before, early March. He had been down to the sex basement. Don't ask him why. And he said that he'd been down there and, the whole place was covered in plastic, like a artist's or painter's tarp, as if, you're painting a room, you don't want to get paint everywhere. He said the whole place was completely covered in that, like he did not want to get any liquid sprayed around the place. Now, the tarp was gone when the police searched it, but, there was a couple of days between the murder happened and when the police got there. This guy would say, yeah, it looked like he'd been preparing to get the place pretty bloody. And then the fact that this guy would also say, oh yeah, Maxwell just came out straight up and said, oh yeah, he was going to kill her. He was going to kill somebody. He was going to take her home. He had a gun. He was going to shoot her dead, chop her up, and just scatter her body parts kind of around the city. As you do. The Frangicide, that's pretty funny. He's just classic Maxwell with his stories. It wasn't very funny now, though, of course. Now, a lot has also been made of the fact that when Sade and Maxwell went back to his house after the bar, they could tell by his internet usage what they had done, and they had sat down and Maxwell had done, he'd busted out the moves, and Netflix and chill was what they had done. They had watched something on his Netflix account, and they could tell by the timestamps when this had been watched, and it was watched when they got home. It was an episode of Love, Death, and Robots. It was that episode where I watched it once years ago. It's like the giant washes up on a beach. The drowned giant is what the episode is called. This giant washes up on a beach and is dismembered. And then, prosecutors would say later on that he had used this as inspiration Which, in fairness, if you've seen the episode, it's absolutely shite. It's not a very, like, creepy, murderous episode at all. And it seemed like he'd been preparing this for some time. So I don't think that had anything to do with anything. They used to blame video games for murder, now they're blaming, you know, Netflix. Why not?
And I'm glad that they charged him with homicide, first degree homicide. You know what I'm saying, man? Because I do think it was a little premeditation up in there. And at the same time, I also could just believe his friend. It checks out to me because everything that his friend said that he said he was going to do, he actually freaking did.
And ask you to do at the end of trial is two things. And there are two things that the judge just mentioned during those instructions. Use your common sense and search for the truth. That is your job. You will see, the evidence will show that what happened to Sade Robinson that night was not an accident. One does not end up going out to dinner and then going out for drinks on Water Street for a good time to being dead and cut up into pieces and discarded into Lake Michigan unless someone intends for that to happen. That's what the evidence will show happened to Sade Robinson. And the evidence will show Maxwell Anderson is responsible. At the end of this trial, I'm going to come back before you and again ask you to do what I asked you to do from the beginning, to use your common sense and search for the truth. And if you do those two things, you will find the defendant guilty.
Defense.
Maxwell Anderson went on trial in May 2025. The trial lasted 2 weeks. He pleaded not guilty. As you can see, he is barely moving a muscle, and he remained like this throughout the entire trial. And though tiny eyes, big Manson lamps. He did not testify, and the defense called no witnesses. They just went with, he had no reason to kill her, so therefore he couldn't have killed her. And we don't even know what happened in the house, you know? Beats me. So, but you can't definitively say he did it. Just, ignore any pictures or any evidence or really anything at all, and you can't find him guilty if you were blind. Interesting.
Boy, he had a trash ass defense attorneys.
They never actually found her blood in his house, nor even signs of a cleanup, which the defense used heavily. The prosecution really relied on the CCTV tracking her car leaving his house, going out to the park, driving around town, being set on fire, and then the clear CCTV of him leaving her burning car.
The state began by using the phrase common sense. You heard it yesterday during jury selection, and you heard it again today in the state's opening. And they're using the phrase common sense because they want you to ignore the mountain of reasonable doubt that exists in this case. And the state knows that there are serious holes in their case. They know it. They know that there's reasonable doubt, and that's why they're coming at you with this phrase like common sense. So let's talk about that. There is absolutely no reason for Max to commit a crime like this. Max brought Sade back to his home and killed her. Why? It's a normal date. They zeroed in on him, they zeroed in on a time frame, and that was all they needed to do. I know that when the evidence shows that when Sade's car left Max's house, and you never see him driving that car.
Yeah, as I said, so with all of the wondrous collage of evidence I just went through, it went about as well as you would expect for old Max Shit Anderson. So yikes for him. Yippee for us, though.
I will now read them into the record. As to count 1, the verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the information. As to count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of mutilating a corpse as charged in count 2 of the information. As to count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of arson of property other than a building as charged in count 3 of the information. As to count 4, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of hiding a corpse as charged in count 4 of the information. At this point, I will poll the jury. What that means is as follows. I'm going to have the first juror state.
The jury deliberated for about an hour. They came back with what you love to see in a case like this, guilty on all counts. Maxwell has not been sentenced yet. That will happen in August of 2025, but he is facing a mandatory life sentence. So why did he do it? He pleaded not guilty, so it's impossible to really know. He had a history of violence, so him freaking out after something going wrong, that makes more sense. But then the friend comes along and says he planned it, had been planning it for a while, because he was a truly twisted monster. That just makes it all the more horrifying.
Yeah.
After Sade's death, her mom, Sheena, launched Sade's Voice Foundation, a non-profit aimed at protecting young people and supporting families during times like this, especially underreported and neglected groups. Sade was a much-loved and a very special person. This entire case is just an utter tragedy of the incredible life she would have led. It's fitting that her name should be on something as important as this. And that is the horrifying case of Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson. And this case is extremely creepy and disturbing. You know what else is still creepy is that the fact that blood, those little spatters of blood, found in his house are still unidentified. Now, I did see one report, or one source, it's not even a report, one lad on Twitter, saying that the blood was tested and found to be animal blood, but I can't find any official sources backing that up, that it was animal blood. So, who knows? Maybe he was, testing pigs out in his basement, or hopefully not other people. But I mean, he's still not admitted doing what he did to Sade Robinson, so maybe he will also not admit what he did to other unnamed people. Who knows? Hopefully we won't be hearing from him ever again. But you know what? Unfortunately, I have far too many fellas like him in this little black book of cases I have. So, there will be a lot of folks just like him. I'll be busy here for a while. So, look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, folks. It means the absolute world to me that you're here. As always, please take care of each other and yourselves until the next old video. 'Cause I love you. Mike out.
It is always a delight, Bean Team, when we get to go back to Mike. And this was a delight at the end because I'm so freaking happy that man and he ain't even got sentenced yet, but I'm happy that he was found guilty on all accounts. And Mike pretty much said his sentencing is going to be a mandatory life sentence. I think we can be comfortable knowing that we shouldn't see him no more in public. He should never see the light of day in public ever again. He should be behind bars for the rest of his life, Bean Team. And it's also one of those cases where I really don't know if it was premeditated or not, but I lean more towards that it was premeditated. And because it's like, if he was guilty, you would think that if he wanted to portray or say or tell his defense attorneys to argue the fact that he made a mistake or it happened in the moment when they was at the home, you know what I'm saying? But for him to just allow them to say that he did this on purpose and he not even fight back for real is like, dude, it's almost like you gave up and you just don't want to say nothing. Because you got to remember, Mike said that he didn't talk to the police at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, he never tried to explain himself or fight for himself. And he know they had all this freaking evidence. Like I said, all the surveillance footage and all that, the text messages, the photos. Everything else, the freaking photos. So if he really wanted to fight for himself, he should have said something. But at the end of the day, long story short, short story long, Bean Team, I'm glad he didn't fight for his freaking self. And I'm glad he got what he freaking deserved. Life in freaking prison. And I digress. Rest in peace one more time to Sade, Bean Team. I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. Before you leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.
If you're feeling lonely today, come along and throw your cares away. We're willing friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!